Really excited to present this episode 9 of the Garbage Pail Kids Sapphire report. Today we have an interview with none other than John Pound. He's going to walk us through his process for creating the OS1 and OS2 artwork, his experience of doing so in a different time in the mid 80s, and also some of his new artwork where he's mixing code and art. Really excited to share this with you. Hope you enjoy. So hello everyone, this is Cass from Cardlens, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by John Pound today for an interview. Hello, John.
Hi, glad to see you. Good to meet you, Cass.
It's really an exciting day. Like I shared in our pre-conversation, so many people are rediscovering Garbage Pail Kids through this Sapphire set and really rediscovering your artwork and also rediscovering memories, of their childhood, collecting these cards. Um, really want to, in this interview, cover kind of your experience creating this artwork and then also talk about some of the new artwork you're doing as well. And it just seems like the creation of this Series 1 and Series 2 artwork must have been a very intense and rewarding period for you artistically. Can you talk us through kind of your experience a little bit?
Sure. I had started I had started in doing art, doing underground comics in the 70s, and then I got more interested in doing paintings and covers and like art print type pieces. So for a few years I was doing fantasy art book covers. And after a while, I was realizing I really started missing the humor of the cartooning and underground comics, which was more like kind of like Mad Magazine kind of humor, and rebellious and just very, very playful. And I was telling my wife that, and in 1984, and then a few months later, I guess maybe the universe heard me or something, so to speak, and that I got a call from Art Spiegelman, who works part-time at Topps, or did at that time, as an art director, and he was interested in me to painting some wacky packages for the series of wacky package trading cards and stickers that they make. And so I said sure, and I did 9 of them for that series that came out in '85. One of the cards was Garbage Pail Kids, and that one was not included in the Wacky Package series because they were thinking behind the scenes about doing something related to Cabbage Patch, and they wanted artists to develop ideas like sketches and concepts for a possible Garbage Pail Kids series. Well, they had tried several artists and weren't getting too much of what they could figure would work for a whole series. And when I did my sketches, and I just felt like, man, this is a lot of fun, and this could be all kinds of stuff. We could have monsters, we could have really gross characters, we could have broken kids. I mean, he gave me a brief that they were going to be mean and nasty and rebellious and unsavory and disgusting, which in hindsight it's just, I mean, there's just a lot of shock value to the content, and yet just it felt like when I was doing my sketches that it's just like playing around with these things. Because I also like cute stuff, like say the Sanrio designs for the little Hello Kitty and those sort of things. But this was an interesting hybrid with working with Cabbage Patch and then Garbage Pail Kids, turning them into the rougher, wilder side of life. Turned in quite a few sketches, maybe 30 or 40 pages of stuff. Some of them were all just lists of ideas, names and topics for images, and about, let's see, I was supposed to do a color rough, so I did that too for one of the characters, which became the character Up Chuck, I think maybe number 3 in the first series, with a little baby on the blanket there barfing and with little toys coming out. And so they were very happy when they got my package in the mail. They said, "Oh, we can do a series with this, and can you do 40 paintings in the next 2 months?" 40, 40, 41 or 44. It was about that. And then my experience with doing fantasy art was it would take like a month, 2 to 4 weeks on a painting to do photoreal style, read the book and make notes and figure out a dramatic scene that can embody the book. And this was a situation where I realized I was literally going to be painting one painting per day for that period of time, which would allow just a little time to catch up. And as the 2 months went by, there would be little corrections and things to make. So the hours got longer each day over the period of the deadline there that I had. But it was really fun stuff. It felt like the phone calls with like Art and at Tops and Mark Newgarden and Lynn Brown. I would mostly be dealing with Art in the early stages there of going over ideas. They'd pick out ideas they wanted me to do, and they'd also send me some sketches that like Mark and other people had done in-house there at Tops or on a freelance basis possibly. So I was doing about half of my ideas from the material that I sent in and about half of what they sent me. It's just a crack up going over the ideas. Like, okay, we need a lot more snot on this character, or this muscle man. Make him put muscles on his muscles. Make that really bulk him up. Oh, exaggerate more was frequent a comment, because I was used to doing things on a fairly literal, believable level for the illustrations that I'd been doing. So it was really a good fun and a good education getting the idea of exaggeration and just pure humor. And then after a while I started after series 1 was done, I just thought that was kind of one and done, because most projects I'd worked on had a short lifespan if they even made it to the marketplace. So I didn't know what was happening on that end. And they did the final names after I turned in the paintings too. Some of them I would give names to, but they wanted all the names to be distributed nicely through the series, so we don't have 7 of the same name or something accidentally relying on easy names.
What an amazing experience that must have been, the collaboration you had with them. This is before Zoom or smartphones, so it sounds like you were just on long distance phone calls for these sessions. Is that right?
Yeah, long distance phone calls, and then the drawings I would send, every few days I would go to a copy store and get my work Xeroxed in the black and white drawings that I was sending them, and FedEx the package to them on their account because they had requested it. And then we'd go over it by phone, and some of them would be okay as is to go to the next stage, or like the painting, which in my case I would do a color rough before the painting, just so I knew the overall look that I wanted, so I wasn't making all my decisions on the final painting and having to correct things 5 or 10 times if I ran into a wrong style or color or something. So the color roughs are just like a quick way to work out what I like the images to look like. Yeah, working long distance like that. And then at a later point in time, not in the early Tops work, but more in the all new series, we would use fax for sending in material too, or some of the later Tops projects after Garbage Pail Kids.
Fascinating. And you talked about how at one point you were faced with 41 paintings, 41 pieces of art that you needed to create at a pace of, it sounds like 1 per day, basically, which was astronomically faster than what you had done in the past. So walk us through kind of that factory you created in that process. Maybe like, is there a card you could choose? Maybe it's Adam Baum, Nasty Nick, where you could walk us through what that experience was like of creating that final artwork.
Well, I'm gonna just give you the general outline there. I realized that with having to do a painting a day, that was how I realized it for the deadline, was Okay, break it down into steps, which was more organized than I had been with my fantasy art, and so the way saw that I needed to do it. Okay, I'm gonna have to spend some time on laying out the picture, just rough composition. Then do a tight pencil, which was what I would show tops for the okay. So that would be basically a 2-hour chunk of time, the layout and the tight pencil. Then when it's okayed, or when the revisions have been done, then I would copy it to the Bristol board for painting on, which is like a thing cartoonists like to use a lot. Kind of a card, heavier cardstock kind of paper. And okay, so it's copied. Then do the color rough. That would be maybe a half hour or something. Then I would, for the painting itself, it'd be basically a 4-hour chunk. So there's the figure, the flesh colors. I would work my way from light to dark using the white of the paper as my bright white. And so I'd start with the light flesh colors and go to medium and dark, but in several steps. So you had because the form of the painting all the flesh tones of the little characters, and the hair was part of this 1-hour chunk too, typically for like. And in the case of these, so many of the hairstyles, it was like make it look a little bit like the doll, like yarn, little strings of yarn. And then okay, so that's the flesh and the hair. That's 1 hour. Clothing would be possibly an hour. Props would, like if they have a gun or a special trash can or a blanket or a steamroller is rolling them down. Then the fourth stage, which was kind of an awkward order to do it in, was to do the background. So I would cut a little stencil with what's called frisket film, which is like a big sheet of sticky tape that you can lay down and remove from the artwork when you're done. So I would cut out the shape of everything that I'd painted for the figure and the hair and the props, and then I would spray with my airbrush the gradation for the background, and so that would be the last hour. And there was a reason I wanted that gradation for the background, because on wacky packages everything was just like a store product with maybe a little cartoon character barely sticking out of the border, and then they have a thick black border. And I thought, okay, for 40 of these little paintings, I'm going to get awfully bored with that thick black border around every figure. So let's think of something interesting. So I just thought back to my days with doing like I had done some t-shirt designs where we could do gradations in the t-shirts back in this would be 70s, and you could tell the silkscreen person may have it go from white to yellow to red over here, then do a second color run that goes from maybe yellow to green to blue to purple. So you can get more colors in the process. But anyway, I thought of those kind of things, and I thought, let me just have a nice colorful background behind each figure. And I realized I wanted to vary the colors for that airbrush, just so that for my own pleasure, I would be seeing different things on and not be always having everything with the same colors. Like even when there's the first series, there was hardly anything that would look like a sky. I think maybe by series 3, we started adding backgrounds that or more often there would be a background. And with that kind of thing, I don't always want everything to be the same sky blue or baby blue color. So I'd look for ways to vary the color palette as well as what's happening in the foreground. And I realized too with color that, okay, we don't want everything to be like Caucasian or a neutral color in terms of skin color. So I was looking for ways to vary the skin tones of the Garbage Pail Kids, which is not a specification they had. It just seemed to me like let's get some variety here. I don't, so.
I mean, and it sounds like you repeated that process daily, essentially, these
Yeah,
steps for those
yeah,
first 41 cards.
exactly. Yeah. I had to stick to that, and there was a time gap between doing the pencil and going on to the painting because of sending it in for approval. So there'd be a few days or a week or so, and sometimes they would hold a piece for revisions, or there were a few that didn't make it as okay to paint for the whole series. Some went into a later series, and some are just rejected and not as focused or interesting when they saw it as a drawing.
When you look back, John, at your body of work for Garbage Pail Kids, do you have a favorite piece of artwork, a favorite card?
Um, that varies from time to time. I can always fall back on Adam Baum because that one was really embodied the spirit of rebellion. And there was a little thing on that too. My original sketch for him had him sitting there pushing the button, and the bomb blast was in the background. And then Art Spiegelman luckily came up with an idea of having the blast come right out of the top of his head, which was a very good idea and a condensation of what was happening, and much more focused and central to what was going on. With Adam Baum, the painting, they wanted me to put extra work and time into that because they were thinking of it for the box and the poster, like the store poster would be like a thing they put on the counter or on the wall saying "Garbage Pail Kids sold here."
Interesting. So they knew that was kind of going to be the iconic image to market Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, started the work on it started in '84, and then it came out in '85, and I had no idea it was going to be as popular as it was, and so they just said, "Let's hurry up and start series 2," and it went onward for like 15 series there in the '80s, and then all of a sudden they said, "Well, we're doing other stuff now, so thanks." And then it was like some experimental projects that we worked on, but nothing as focused as Garbage Pail Kids.
And you had a transition to other forms of artwork. It seems like you've really picked up on the theme of kind of using code to create artwork. I'd love to learn more about that approach and some of the art you've been creating more recently.
Okay, I got one of my sons had a Commodore 64 in '84, and I would watch him playing with this home computer. And then when I was starting in on Garbage Pail Kids, I thought, I want to get a computer too. And at that point, an Amiga came out, which was kind of like a Macintosh, but with color and animation. And so I got that in '86. I started looking around, what can you do with a computer? And I discovered some work by an artist, Harold Cohen, who would do these drawings. At that time, they were abstract with his computer that looked like kind of like early children's drawings or rock petroglyphs. And they looked kind of like kids' drawings, but they had this weird mechanical edge to it. And he put out a book called The First Artificial Intelligence Coloring Book. I was fascinated by that book and ended up buying it, and then reading that, and turned out he had been a fine artist and a painter. I know I'm going kind of long here on Harold Cohen's story. So I basically started wondering from studying what he was doing as a painter, converting into doing work with code, it was a short leap in my mind to, okay, as a cartoonist, what can I have a computer do that would speak to me and my interest in cartooning? And early on, it was just like having it write a list of ideas for paintings, and one of them became a Garbage Pail Kid. Like I had a big long list that I sent to Mark Newgarden of ideas where you have like different words for kids and different things that they could have with their body or their environment. And one was like a kid with a skateboard foot, and that ended up becoming a Garbage Pail Kid in late. So this is like a precursor to my code art, but just using code for an idea. It was probably, a lot of them are just kind of not quite there as ideas, as you expect with random combinations of words. Some are funny, some are sort of funny, some are like, okay, well, whatever. I think for me, the thing that kind of clicked when I was thinking about what to do with code, I was writing all these lists in my sketchbooks of possible ideas and techniques. And the thing that just seemed to appeal to me was have it actually randomly generate a comic strip or a comic page. And I was a little stuck with that for a while, and then I realized, oh, it could be really simple and primitive, like an outsider artist. There were artists in Weirdo magazine and Raw magazine that had different styles than normal illustration. And I thought that's probably what I'm going to have to do with code is a really simple, primitive style, almost like a kid's drawing, except the figure I came up with had these little balloon forms. And the first piece I did a test run where I had like random figures, then I had random sentences on a page, and then I had one that had a page randomly divided into panels with just the word blah, 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 blah. And then the fourth version that I was able to come up with, I plugged in those random sentence words and sentences into where the word balloon was going to go and where the title of the page was. And it came up with a piece called Electric President. And it was like 6 panels on a page and these little balloon-like figures talking to the viewer, and just, I don't have it in front of me, so that I can, that would be on my Tumblr blog too, Electric President. And when I saw that, I thought I couldn't have come up with that combination myself. I like what it's doing. And it just blew my mind, and it made me want to do as much more as I could with code. I realized there was possibility there, not for a commercial product, but just for things that were fun and funny and weird, and what would a computer's way of doing cartooning be? So I started just making lists of stuff and expanding my code, and for a few years I was printing out. I had a laser printer, so I was able to print things out in black and white and make these pages and little zines that I made for myself that were comic experiments. Some of them were abstract comics, like different blobs on a page, or when I'm starting out a new code language, I might just have it do scribbles on the page just to make sure it's up and running, that's the early step there, just making marks on paper, basically. Then a few years later, I got a chance to enter an art show. My wife suggested that since I was doing this cartooning and the judge was teaching digital art up in the next state in Oregon, that why not try doing a print of some of my cartooning work and enter that in the art show. So I learned more about how to get color, and I put in about 6 different kinds of comics on the same page, like in the form the way Sunday comics look on the newspaper, with the different strips, some of them horizontal, some vertical, some big, some little. I just wanted to keep going with that, and that became my personal obsession in art, was what can I do with code and chants and cartooning. That's the germ of it.
I love it. There's a couple things that really stand out to me. Nowadays, with artificial intelligence, you're starting to hear a lot of people talk about how computers, can create art. But the fact that you were doing this, so long ago, before people were really talking about that, to me is fascinating. Also, the humor aspect really stands out to me. So I worked on a television show once on Watson, which was the computer that IBM was building. And the test they were doing was playing Jeopardy. They wanted the computer to beat 2 human beings, including Ken Jennings, in Jeopardy. And in the show, some of the answers that Watson came up with were just so humorous and so funny and so out there. It sounds like, electric president, or some of these other phrases where you're really in a real way collaborating with the computer. It seems like.
Yeah, collaborating. and letting it do things that the subconscious, I mean, it's probably my subconscious just coming up with these lists of stuff that the computer can do, and the same with like what these new ones can do, like with artificial intelligence. They're training them on information that they have large amounts of, and then they probably have to train it. Okay, we like this kind of answer, but these are way off the mark, so they got to find ways to make the what the computer thinks about doing to be useful to what they're wanting.
Yeah. It's a fascinating world, and it sounds like your art keeps evolving and your thinking about art keeps evolving. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, yeah. Um, like the thing I have to watch is to focus more on my creative thing, because there's a lot of the time that I go into technical stuff of just reorganizing my code. Well, that doesn't really give me any new art when I reorganize my code. It might Sometimes it might give me an idea for what to do, but I basically have to then actually tell it, okay, I want, or tell it. I mean, that makes it sound like it's going to do what I say. I basically have to give it write it out like a formula for it to do, including the choices that it has if there's going to be some random choices. Like
For sure.
the other day, I was making like a drawing, basically. I started doing a series of drawings that were kind of black and white. And I realized after a while, well, I'd like to see some color on these. So I thought, okay, well, make the black lines a color, make the insides of the forms another color. And that took just a couple hours to kind of test that out. I think I was frustrated on Friday, and then Monday I thought, okay, I can see where to go. And then I could do that. And I thought, hey, I just got some free color for the same drawings, and instead of everything being black and white, then we have these limited color, limited palette things, and I that felt very good to see. I don't have those on my blog yet, but that's an example of just working with the thing.
Um, John, this has been tremendous. Just to learn a little bit about your journey through art, a couple of these phases where you focused on Garbage Pail Kids, you focused on how code and art work together. Um, Kind of any final thoughts for this audience? Again, these are folks who are diehard Garbage Pail Kids collectors. Any kind of final thoughts for this interview today?
Well, one thing that surprised me, like I did start a little Instagram blog. I haven't kept it up there for the last year, but a lot of the people that I follow that blog, which it seems to be a lot of them are Garbage Pail Kid artists. I don't mean professionals, but some are professional, and some people do sketch cards, and some are hobbyists that have all range of ability in art. And I'm just it just boggles my mind that there's this enthusiasm for Garbage Pail Kids that I could never have predicted from starting out. I just started out as a kid who liked comics and Mad Magazine and science fiction paintings and pop culture, and I didn't really see where any of that was gonna be even accessible when I was starting out. So here's where it needs to go. Is I just like to say where your curiosity and your passion is. I mean, look for a way to build on that. That's the general lesson there, because that's what it was for me. I wanted to do something that I enjoyed, and I had no idea that whether that could even be a way to make a living or not. Yeah, but put a lot of work into it, and look for a lot of entertainment value there. I just hope other people find entertainment in what they're doing too with the Garbage Pail Kids.
It's a wonderful note to end on. Like you said, there's a community that's been built up, many folks who are artists, who kind of have built upon that style. I know there's a lot of folks who do custom Garbage Pail Kids for people. So you can send in a picture of a loved one or a friend and, and a name. So it's just this kind of flowering of creativity that started, with this very intense period that you described today in this interview all the way back in 1984, 85. And I want to thank you, John, for walking us through it today. Thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome, Cass. Good to meet with you. Good to talk with you. I look forward to seeing what other videos you'll be putting on your channel too.
Sounds great.